Hello, and welcome to this special interview series on second chapters, how I reinvented myself in the second chapter of my life. I'm Wanda Malhotra, lifestyle journalist and CEO of Crunchy Mama Box, a platform promoting conscious living. Today's interview is part of a powerful collaboration with Authority Magazine, a Medium publication that delves deep into topics that truly matter. Today, we will have the pleasure of Dr. Nina Cash, a true inspiration. At 57, she defied age barriers, becoming a 2024 Sports Illustrated rookie model, breaking stereotypes. An academic, wife, mother, and advocate for the diabetic community, she believes it's never too late to chase dreams. Her journey from educator to model is extraordinary. When not on the runway, Nina enriches lives through Get Safe, offering anti-bullying, safety, and trauma-informed programs. She's much more than a model. She's a force for change. Join us for an exclusive interview with Dr. Nina Cash and discover her extraordinary journey, her passion, and her zest for life. Thank you so much for doing this with us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
It's such a pleasure. Thank you. Before we start, our readers would love to get to know you better. Can you tell us a bit about your childhood story?
Oh, absolutely. So I was raised in a Filipino Catholic military family. My parents had two kids in their 20s and two kids in their 40s, and I am the baby of the family. And so it's almost like when I grew up, I had two sets of parents. I had my parents and then my older siblings. So my brother is 16 years older than me. My sister is 12, and then I have a brother who is 13 months older. My childhood was wonderful. To say Pollyanna, yeah, it was kind of Pollyanna. My dad, he was in the military for about 30 years. My dad was in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. And he met my dad's Filipino, and he met my mom in Boston. So my mom is Filipino, but she was born and raised on the East Coast. So can you imagine growing up with a father from the Philippines with a Filipino accent and then a mother with an East Coast? Look at your father, pull up the car. It was fun. It was wild. But I had a wonderful, wonderful childhood. I have my parents here whenever I do interviews and stuff. Aren't they gorgeous? There's my daddy, there's my mama. I think this was probably 1944 or something like that. But yeah, childhood was just really wonderful. I had great role models. And my older brother, Frank, he's Frank Jr. He actually, and I want to do a shout out to him because we just had a Filipino Heritage Month last month. He was the first Filipino community college president of the United States. So he was a community college president for 2 community colleges. So something to aspire to be. Great role model. Yeah, I think my childhood was wonderful, Wanda, because, my parents were traditionalists. My siblings were boomers. And then my brother, who's just 13 months older than me, were both Xers. So I had all of these wonderful, I guess, generations of learning that included everything from family values to music. I love all types of music, from Glenn Miller to Janis Joplin, to Susie and the Banshees. We have everything. So yeah, I had a great childhood. Really good.
Oh, I love that. I love that story. Wow, you had everything. Perfect. Can you please give us your favorite life lesson quote? And can you share how that was relevant in your life?
Oh gosh, one of my favorite quotes is when you're down to nothing, God is up to something, or the universe is up to something. I think with all of us, we can say that, sometimes hindsight is 20/20. But when you are quote unquote down in the dumps, sometimes you just can't see anything, right? It's very devastating, or whatever you're going through, very traumatic, very sad. But I am here to say that, I understand that sometimes when I can't see something, there is a bigger picture, and it's only time that's going to allow me to see that. And it's happened throughout my entire life. I had a wonderful opportunity to retire from the university. I worked for the California State University system for many years. I worked at Cal State Long Beach, Cal State LA, And now I also consult at Cal State Fullerton. And I had a wonderful opportunity last year to retire. And when I took that opportunity, I thought, well, gosh, what am I going to do? I've been in workforce development, education, and training my whole entire life. You know, what's going to happen? And then this encore career came about. And I think, my goodness, if I didn't retire, I wouldn't be creating this new chapter of my book of life that, you know, you and I had just talked about. So I think, you know, sometimes, you know, when you're unsure of things and you kind of like take a leap of faith, you know, it's okay. There is light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not a freight train. Okay. It's not a freight train. It's sunlight. So it's all good. All good.
That is such an inspirational story, especially for like young people that are kind of lost, don't know what to do. And you just have to believe that it's going to happen and throw yourself out there. I love that. Oh,
And
it's such an inspiration.
and you need to learn the life lessons. My mom always says you either get it when you're younger or you get it when you're older, but you get it. And you hope you're lucky enough that you can get it. And what do I mean by that? You want to have the sorrow, the heartache, the pain, the suffering, because if you don't have that, you will never understand or appreciate all the good things in life. You'll never have a reference point, right? So everything is always just happy, happy, happy. So in order for you to truly appreciate and embrace and be grateful for the things that you have to have gone without. I'm a firmer believer in that. Like you have to have, you know, gone through a struggle, and everything's relative, right? Everything is to a certain person what they go through. But I believe that, yeah, you have to understand the pain in order to really embrace and be thankful for all the joy.
That is so true. That is so true. And that's what we have to focus on. I agree. So you have been blessed with so much success. In your opinion, what are the top 3 qualities that you possess that have helped you accomplish so much? And if you can please share a story and example of each.
Ooh, okay. Oh my goodness. 3 examples. Well, you know, I think I'm very steadfast, right? I'm very dogged. I don't give up easy. Although I do, you know, I do realize that sometimes, you know, you do need to give up to move on to the next. You know, when I was younger, I was scouted to be a model. But you know, my parents wanted me to finish high school. And let's be honest, I think when I was younger, this is the 80s when I was scouted, my look wasn't on the cover of magazines or on the runways. It just wasn't. Plus, I was only 5'8". So after high school, I went to junior college, and, you know, I modeled just a little bit. I was lucky enough to get with an agency. And then I found myself in love and having a baby and realizing that, you know, modeling is not going to pay the bills because my child didn't ask to be born into this world. So I needed to take care of her. So I got what everybody would call a survival job. Well, little did I know that my survival job would also turn into something that I loved, education and higher education and workforce development. So, you know, I did that, and I still had that inkling, you know, of modeling and things and acting in the back of my mind. And honestly, you know, dipped my toes back into it with, you know, the Sports Illustrated and doing some other things. And then, you know, I said, all right, I'm going to go back to this. I sort of gave it up, but I really didn't give it up. And now I'm here. So it's like, I think I'm dogged. Might have taken a little time. I mean, like 30 years, but I'm here. And another quality, I think just, I'm just a happy person. I like to choose. The one great thing is that we could choose our attitude, right? We could 100% choose our attitude. And I like to say, and I'm a firm believer in this, you can only be offended if you allow yourself to be offended. What do I mean by that? If I don't know you and you make a comment about me and you really don't know me, how can I possibly be offended? You don't know me, I don't know you. And again, Eleanor Roosevelt, thank you very much. You can only be offended if you allow yourself to. And I know there's, you know, a lot of people said wonderful things about my journey, and there are those who perhaps don't see it that way, and they're going to say things. But again, it doesn't get me down because I am here. I know who I am. I know my family knows me. So again, I think one of the lessons is you could only be offended if you allow yourself to be offended. One other thing that I want to share with you. I'm a firm believer in being a cheerleader for people that aren't in the room. And what do I mean by that? Let's cheer each other on. Let's mention people and give them opportunities that aren't in the room or might not otherwise have these opportunities. I will never forget, I had a dear friend, Cecilia, just a wonderful lady. She was 20 years older than me. And early in my career, when I was in workforce development, I left one job and went to another job, and I worked for a staffing agency. And one of my first, I guess you could say, my first account that I landed was with Sears, and Sears was lovely to me, but I needed to get 20 people. And so she helped me get like the 20th person that I needed to do, to fulfill my obligation with Sears. And she did it out of the kindness of her heart. She didn't do it because she wanted to get kudos. So fast forward to, I call Cecilia again and say, Cecilia, I need 10 people. I have my 9th person. I need this 10th person. Now, mind you, Cecilia, this is for the metro that's opening up in the San Bernardino County. I need you to drive to San Bernardino, and I need you to be there for 2 weeks. She said, not a problem. I will be happy to do it for you. Now, at the time, sadly, Cecilia had been laid off from a job, and her job was building some preschools, and it was using some state-funded money and some federal-funded money. So she was spending more on gas money to go out to San Bernardino than what I was paying her. But you know what? She's like, Miha, I want you to succeed, so I'm going to go out there. So 2 weeks goes by, and Cecilia, she's this gregarious, lovely woman, always smiling. She's directing these new passengers that are taking this new thing called the metro system from San Bernardino to LA. And on the last day she was there, a gentleman walked up to her, had been commuting for about 2 weeks, and said, and sorry, my phone, I didn't silence it, and said, you don't belong here. Like, what are you doing just greeting people on a platform? And she said, oh, well, I'm helping my friend out. And the gentleman said, well, what did you do before? She said, well, I used to work for this nonprofit organization, and we relied on grants and funding. Well, unfortunately, they lost their funding and went to another organization. And so right now I'm unemployed, but I'm doing this to help a friend. Guess what happened? His eyes lit up. I still get goosebumps. He was the president of the nonprofit that got the money and hired her. I still get goosebumps. Sorry, I still get goosebumps to this day. What are the odds? And again, it goes back to Cecilia did it just to help me. She didn't do it for anything. She wanted me to succeed. And I did, because I got my 10th person. But in that, she got hired by this person because she knew the job inside and out, right? With a $10,000 raise. What she got. So it's like, I know. It's brilliant.
Phenomenal story. I cannot believe this. This is just beautiful, and it gives hope to so many people that are sometimes doing something they don't want to do. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, you never know. And Cecilia passed away about 7 years ago, but there's not a day that goes by that I don't think of her in my working world and wanting to help people and just doing it. And I love it when people want to help others without wanting recognition or anything in return, just do it. Yeah.
That story is beautiful. I'm emotional. I love it. Okay. Let me breathe. And now let's shift to the main part of our discussion about second chapters. Can you tell us about your career experience before the second chapter?
Sure. So I have been in workforce development, education, and training for 35 years now, and just kind of stumbled across it. Lucky enough to work. Well, so let me take a step back. It's interesting because when I graduated high school, I was lucky enough to become a teacher's aide at the local unified school district. And then I got a promotion to help high school students who were in the special ed population or special ed classes with finding them jobs. So I worked a lot with autistic children, Down syndrome children and students. And this was before, autism and Down syndrome was really kind of mainstream right now. But I had a knack for it and I loved it. I loved it. I was able to secure them employment. And I'll give you an example. We had one student, oh my gosh, I love him. We'll call him Peter. And Peter was autistic and Peter was very slow. He's very methodical, extremely methodical. So there was a restaurant, Sizzler. I don't know if people remember Sizzler. Does anybody remember Sizzler cheese toast? I do. So his job was to put the cheese on the toast. And he was so good at it. Other people would find it so boring and monotonous, but Peter would put that cheese and sprinkle the, and of course the managers loved him because he was so good at it. And so from there, I got into this whole thing called workforce development. And I worked for some government funded programs. Back in the day, it was called the Job Training Partnership Act. Today, it's called the Workforce Innovation and Opportunities Act. And basically, there's money to help those folks who are unemployed, underemployed, recently laid off with job training and career counseling and job placement. So I've actually been doing that as well. I sit on a board right now in the city of Long Beach. I'm a board member, and I absolutely loved that job and still love it as a board member, just helping people, find their second chapters. There was one gentleman, these stories, I call them God winks, Wanda, because it's like God winks at you in mysterious ways, or the universe winks at you. There was a gentleman, and we'll call him Norman. And Norman came to me, and he was in the medical field. He was an administrator at a hospital, and he was recently laid off. So he came for services, and I was assigned to him to be his case manager. And so I met with him. Now, mind you, he was probably 60 years old, and at the time, I'm 30. So it's kind of like there's, he's had a lot of experience in the working world, and I'm just starting up, right? And long story short, I help him with revising his resume, providing some career coaching with him, and job development. And so he applied at a hospital, and he hadn't heard from the hospital. He was getting nervous, like, am I going to get, an interview? I said, be patient. These are high-powered positions that you're applying for. So long story short, he gets an interview and he gets hired, and we're so excited. The whole process took about 3 or 4 months, but he kept coming back to me, and I kept, I'm cheerleader. It's all good. So lost touch with Norman. Fast forward to, sadly, when my parents passed away, we did an estate sale, and we had it at the home, and I was present, and I hear this voice and they're talking. And I look at it's Norman. He's like, Regina, I wondered what happened to you. And I'm like, Norman, what's going on? He goes, I got to retire, Regina. I retired last year. Oh, by the way, folks, Regina is my birth name. Nina is my stage name. Or Nina is what people called me growing up. Anyways, can you believe that? So like 15 years later, there's Norman, and he stayed at that job and he got to retire. So that was pretty cool. Really, really cool. Yeah.
Incredible.
And then I am a returning adult student. I definitely want to mention that. And what does that mean? I actually earned my bachelor's 20 years after I graduated high school, my master's 30 years after I graduated high school, and my doctorate at the age of 55. Yeah. And I'm a firm believer, though, even though I have all these degrees, that the best classroom is the world, and the best teacher is life experience, hands down. Some folks aren't ready to go to school right after high school, and that's okay, and that shouldn't be frowned upon, because everybody has a different path to success. Everybody does. And for me, I went to junior college, but I had some other opportunities afforded to me where I did not finish my degree. And then when I was older, I decided I really want to go back, especially because I was kind of working in workforce development and education, but I wanted to get my degree so that I could have more opportunities afforded to me. And it was hard being a single parent, earning a bachelor's, And then when I was getting my master's, sadly, my parents were on hospice, and then my dad passed away right when I was writing my thesis. And then, with my doctorate, we got the pandemic. I've got 29,000 students, 6,000 faculty and staff, and we're trying to pivot. Yeah, it was a lot, but I wouldn't change it. Wouldn't change a thing. I am who I am today at this moment, and with Sports Illustrated, because of all those wonderful life experiences. Some of them bumpy, but nonetheless, worth it. Worth it.
You are a beautiful soul, and your positivity towards all the struggles, it's just amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
So can you tell us about the specific trigger that made you decide that you were going to take the plunge and make that huge transition? Like, what was it?
The transition into acting and modeling, or with SI?
Yes.
Oh.
When you finished your career and you had the choice to retire, right? You had the choice to retire or to do something else, and you decided to go into modeling again.
Yeah. Well, I think once I retired, I knew I wasn't retired with life or retired with working, right? I retired from the CSU system, the California State University system. But it was one of those things, and I think I mentioned how it was still in the back of my mind about this, right? And I'm dogged, and I wanted to finish something I started. And I felt like, because I had that quote unquote give it up because I had a child, I wanted to see if I could finish it. Little did I know, and you could probably attest to this, Wanda, because I love your hair. It's like we're the Silver Sisters. Come on, hey, Silver Sisters, our Xers. That we are now in style, right? We are fashionable, because I believe now that the world realizes that gray does not equal frail, weak, old, all of that stuff. It's just the opposite, right? So I dipped my toes back in, and I was met with open arms and a lot of support and encouragement, and started booking jobs here and there, and just, slowly but surely started to build this confidence, like, okay, this could be an encore career. So I'm calling it on-careering. I'm mixing the two, encore career, and I'm calling on-careering. So I'm doing these hashtags. So if anybody wants to know, I know how to spell encore career, but I'm just mixing it up together. But the funny story about SI is, so my husband is Australian, and we hadn't been back to Australia for about, 3 years because of the pandemic. And so last year in December, we decided to go and visit family for a month. And, in December, it's their summertime. So I, am very modest, grew up in a Filipino Catholic military family, very modest. And I don't really wear bathing suits. I never would see me in a two-piece, right? So we live very close to the ocean. And I said, well, I need to get a bathing suit. So we go to the local mall and a store. And the only bathing suit left in my size, because you remember, it's their summertime, is a two-piece leopard bikini, which is like polar opposite of like what I would wear. So my husband and I, like, well, who cares? We get up at 7 o'clock in the morning, we walk on the beach, yada, yada. So it was New Year's Day in Australia. We're walking on the beach. I think it's 7 o'clock in the morning. My husband takes some candid shots of me on the beach. And, I'm saying to the kids, Happy New Year from Australia. And then that night, we look at the phone, we look at the pictures, and I'm like, hey, not bad for a 56-year-old silver hair, retired, disabled senior citizen. And so my husband's like, yeah, and so I said, I remember Kathy Jacobs. She won Sports Illustrated swimsuit like 2 years ago, and I think she was 56. So we started talking about this, and I said, well, I'm going to look it up. He goes, yeah, and if you want to do that, look it up, apply. And I said, well, it's December. I think the application period is clearly over because, it's December. So I went online, and I didn't realize, but SI Swim Search extended the application deadline to January 1st in America. Well, it was January 1st in Australia, and they're a day ahead. So I was like, oh, I have 45 minutes to put something together. So I literally did a quick videotape, spliced it together with those pictures. And that's why you see me in some of those pictures like a huh and a hoot, because the waves are coming and they're not posed whatsoever. And I submitted it. 3 months later, I get an email, Nina, congratulations, you made it to the top 24. And I was like, what? And so I showed my husband and he's like, oh my gosh, congratulations. You want to celebrate? I'm like, yes, I do. So one of my favorite places to eat, I'm going there since high school, is Tommy's Burger. So I went and got my Tommy's chili cheese fries and my Dr. Pepper. And we celebrated him being in the top 24. And then it made the top 12 and then the top 7. And then it was announced that, the 7 of us are going through and we were named the first rookies for the 2024 issue. And it's been wonderful. I pinch myself. It's a dream. It's a dream, and I don't want to wake up though, because it's a pretty cool dream right now.
Don't wake up. It's beautiful. Oh my goodness. Your stories just get better.
Oh,
so what did you do to discover that you had a new skill set inside of what you haven't been maximizing? So you had this opportunity, you submitted the videos, you won. So how did you find that, and how did you ultimately overcome the barriers to help manifest those powers that were hidden?
That's a really good question. I've always had a positive attitude, and I think I go back to either get it when you're younger, get it when you're older, and just looking at all my life lessons. And I thought at my age, I'm like, I'm gonna take risks. Life is very short, and I think Wanda, during the pandemic, it brought forth it brought in what am I trying to say? It really brought home and put in people's face about how precious life is and how fleeting it is. And so, I thought, well, I was a career counselor and coach. I'm going to really need to practice what I preach. So, when you see me, it's just me. And I just thought, I'm just going to be me. I'm going to do the best I can. I'm a sponge. I'm going to learn as much as I can. I've been on photo shoots where, my security blankets were like the makeup artist and the hairstylist helping me do these poses, because I was like, how do I do that? And they've been wonderful, absolutely wonderful. So I think the fear of, not failing, because what is failure at this point? I'm blessed. I'm so lucky to be here. How many people want to be in my shoes right now, and are trying and haven't had that opportunity? And I say yet, not that they're never going to have it yet. So yeah, I'm going to take it all in.
That is so true. And we shouldn't be afraid. It's not fear. It's opportunities that we have to dive into.
Right. Exactly.
So how are things going with this new initiative? Give us a few examples or stories, something that you want to share with us about this new career that is so remarkable.
Well, I think I would not have been prepared for it if I was younger, especially with social media, right? It's a whole other level with social media. I went to an event, and I have to get used to this. I talk about, learning, because for me, if I'm taking pictures of myself and promoting myself, for me, it's like egotistical, because I'm more like I'm behind the scenes, but I have to learn that that's okay. Like even doing this interview, I get nervous because I'm like, what are people going to think? But I'm like, you know what, if I can help somebody else, or if they could just get a little spark of something that ignites their flame, more power to you, right? But it's interesting with the social media and me understanding what I need to do to promote myself in this arena. So that's one of the things that I guess I can use the word struggling with, because it's not an automatic for me. It's not something that comes with ease or with grace. It's a struggle. I have to ask my 31-year-old, 30-year-old, and 28-year-old, how does mama do this? Show me, what are these hashtags? What am I doing? But yeah, so those are some of the things that I'm just learning. And Yeah, it's just been a wild ride. It has, but just a wonderful Mr. Toad's wild ride. Yeah.
Well, they say the journey is the best part, isn't it? Learning and just
And right.
discovering.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, because of my background as an educator, I don't mind doing the research. I don't mind the process, if you will. I don't need that immediate gratification right now. Yeah, I can, it's okay to wait and be calm, because it's always right timing. People say, oh, it's bad timing. No, it is always right timing. And if we can just remember that, things will be a lot easier. At least they have for me.
That's a very wise saying and very wise advice that you're giving to a lot of people right now. It's always the right timing. We have to trust the process, right?
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
Is
Yeah.
there a particular person who you are grateful towards who helped you get to where you are? And can you share a story about that? I know your husband helped with the photos and the
Yeah.
videos.
Definitely my family. I'm going to say my mama. My mom, she passed away 10 years ago, at 87 years old, and she lived a wonderful, wonderful life. She's such a wonderful human being. Understanding, her struggles when she was younger and what she went through, and her always being so kind, so kind and accepting of people. And one example is, so mom had a trunk, right? And she had a bunch of pictures in there, and this trunk was probably from like 1939. And so she kept a lot of her favorite pictures in there and different things. And when I was old enough, I think I was probably high school. Yeah, I think I was a junior in high school. So we discovered the trunk in the garage. And so I went, I opened it up, and I was looking at these wonderful pictures of my mom back in like 1930s and the 40s and 50s. And I came across one picture, and my mom is sitting at a table in a nightclub, and she has some girlfriends with her, and then clearly drag queens. Okay. And I'm like, Mama, so she goes, you know what, honey, those were my friends. They dressed up as women, and that's what they did for entertainment. And of course, back then, I mean, we know drag queens now are you dress in drag. And my mom was just so accepting. She's like, people are people. You don't have to judge them for, as long as they're good and they're happy and they're kind and you don't have to worry about all that stigma. And so I'll never forget that. Here's my mom, guys, back in Boston nightclub in like 1943, hanging out with like guys in drag and her girlfriends, and they're having a great time. And I love that about my mom. Love it. So she was a big influence, as well as my father, a big influence. I've told this story before, but it's worth retelling. But, my dad, like I said, he was in 3 wars. And before that, he was in the Philippine-Japanese conflict. And there was an incident where he was about 16 years old at the time, and he was called to his commander's hut in the Philippines, and he was to assassinate a Japanese prisoner of war. And so the commander left, and my dad was there by himself with the other Japanese teenager, and who posed no threat to my father at the time. And so my father could not kill him, because my father, as he told the story, is that he felt as though, they were both young, and all these things that they were thinking about getting married and having children. So he shot in the air, and he let the Japanese soldier run into the field. So fast forward to 2 weeks later, unfortunately, my dad and a couple of his friends get captured by the Japanese, and they're going to be assassinated. And who comes out to assassinate them? The gentleman soldier who my dad let go. So he let my dad go. My dad goes running in the field, but then unfortunately, his friends did not run into the field. And when I think about my father being 16 years old, 17, and going through all of that, and if you knew my father, he was the kindest, the most gentle, generous. Nothing affected my dad. He was always happy. Nothing got under his skin. Nothing. He was so mellow. And I thought to myself, how could I ever complain about anything, seeing what my dad went through? So seeing how strong my parents were, during the, they obviously went through the Depression. They were, around in the Depression and being discriminated against because, of the color of their skin. When we moved into our neighborhood, one of the neighbors clearly said, well, there goes the neighborhood. Sadly. Yeah, this is back in like 1969, and that was a different time, right? We're past that. But these are all the things that I remember and lessons that I don't want to repeat, right? I'm a different person. I've learned from that, and hopefully a better person from the stories of my mom and dad and what they went through. So
you had very strong role models, big hearts, good values, beautiful. I love that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
This is really emotional. Your stories are very emotional.
Oh, thanks, Wanda. I appreciate it. It's funny because one of my colleagues at work, this is probably like 10 years ago, he said in the morning, do you always have to come in so happy? And I said, well, I go, isn't it lovely that we get to choose our attitude? We get to choose our attitude. I really choose to be happy. Some people say, oh, Nina, you talk a lot. Okay, sorry. I just want to be happy. That's all. I'm gonna look at the bright. I'm an optimist. I'm optimistic, like my mom and dad. I choose not to be a pessimist. Really do. So
I agree with you. I agree that we can choose to be happy. Mm-hmm. Happiness is a choice.
Yeah. Viktor Frankl.
Can you share the most interesting story that happened to you since you started in this new direction?
Oh, yes. Again, this is like, so I'm on Instagram, and so there was a person who reached out to me and asked for a picture of me in a bikini, and they were going to pay for it. And I was like, oh. Like, okay. So my hands, I don't know. And then I had another friend who I told the story to, and they said, well, Nina, if you're going to be in Sports Illustrated, they're going to want an autographed picture of you in the bikini anyways. What's the difference? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I'm still processing all of this. I don't know what to think of it. That was a really funny story. That just happened probably 2 weeks ago.
That's an interesting request.
Right? Like, what's that? So, yeah.
Did you ever struggle with believing in yourself? And if so, how did you overcome that limiting belief about yourself? Can you share a story or example?
Oh, yeah. I think, I'm one of the biggest persons in that imposter syndrome, right? When I got my doctorate, and I just made my husband call me doctor for one day when I defended my dissertation and became officially a doctor. But in the university system, out of respect, if you have your doctorate, they call you, Dr. Cash and whatnot. So, it's interesting. I still have that imposter syndrome, fleeting moments of it. Like, really? Did I earn that doctorate? Am I really worthy of that? And then I have to remind myself, it took me 5 years. I did a lot of research. I had a family. I was going through the pandemic. I mean, there was so much stuff going on. So yes, I indeed earned that. But imposter syndrome is big, especially for women, I think, right? We don't think we're good enough, or we're going to be found out that we're really not that good, or we're, they're going to find out the real us, and it's not pretty underneath there, but it's, that's one of the things that I struggle with.
You're not alone. A lot of people struggle with that, for sure.
Yeah.
Believing that we earned all of it.
We earned, or earn a seat at the table, right? Yeah. So.
That's right. So in my work, I usually encourage my clients to ask support before they embark on something new. How did you create your support system before you moved to your new chapter?
Oh, well, thank you for asking that question. So I have a tribe of friends who are, can you see me okay?
I can see you.
Oh, okay. I have a tribe of girlfriends that are just wonderful. And of course, my family. And I have one friend that said, if your head gets too big, believe me, here's the needle. I'm going to pop it. So they're like, and they're teasing. They're like, but we just can't imagine you ever being that way. No, they're surrounding me. They're wonderful in that they won't let me read any of the comments on some of the social media. They want to review it first. But again, they all know that, I can't be offended if, I can only be offended if I allow myself to be. But I did ask for support and help, right? Especially from my agents. And I'm the first to say, listen, you guys are subject matter experts. I'm not. I'm leaning to you to learn what I need to do and what I should stay away from and all that good stuff in order to be to do the best job I can and be the best version of myself in this new chapter of my life. I could talk about education. I could talk about workforce development. I could talk about competency-based education and the traditional education system. But when it comes to like the modeling and the acting aspect of it, or just the social media, I'm a newbie and I have no problem asking questions. A lot of the younger talent, I've been on a lot of sets with younger talent, and they are so wonderful. Okay, Nina, this is what you have to do. Okay, this is a highlight. This is what you do to highlight to get it on your reels. And then this stays longer, then you get more hits. And I'm like, thank you guys. They're so wonderful. They're terrific. So yeah, I have a wonderful support system, just a wonderful support system.
That is fantastic and so necessary.
Yes, 100%.
So starting a new chapter usually means getting out of your comfort zone. How did you do that? And can you share a story, an example of that?
Oh gosh, a new chapter. Yeah, I go back to I guess doing the Sports Illustrated, talk about dipping my foot in the pool again. This is a splash. I mean, this is the deep end. I mean, Sports Illustrated swimsuit. I mean, pun intended, big splash. I just had to go with it, right? I mean, I was lucky enough to walk in the big SI show in July. Talk about nerves. I mean, some of these ladies have been, they're rookies, have been in the magazine. And then, oh my gosh, then we had the OGs, Roshemba and Carol Alt and Vendela. They were there too. And of course, they're my age. And so to be with them, when I looked up to them when I was younger, it was just magical, very, very magical. But yeah, it's been interesting to be thrown into the deep end. And I just take my, past experience when I've been thrown in the deep end, regardless of where I was. Again, when I was in workforce development, I was 30 years old and I was counseling, 60-year-olds who've had a life career. But, I did my research, I learned, and I was successful. So I'm hoping, with Sports Illustrated and this new encore career and this new chapter, that I'm successful in my terms, right? Everybody has a different term or what success means for them. Hopefully I am successful in this next chapter of my life. But I'm ready to stumble and scrape my knees and bump my nose. I have to. There's no way I wouldn't. This is all new to me. I'm learning. So I expect to. And I hope people out there are gracious enough to give me a little pass, please, because I'm still learning.
Well, to me, you're a huge success already, I'm sure, to a lot of people.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that, Wanda.
So what are the 5 things I wish someone told me before I started, and why? Please share a story or example for each. That's a big one.
I know. I'm going to write this down. 5. So repeat again, the 5 things that I wish I would have known.
5 things I wish someone told me before I started in this career.
Oh,
and why?
Okay, let me see. One is about social media. I think, I knew a little bit about it, but the importance of social media and keeping folks engaged. What I think might be boring, people find fascinating, and I have to understand that. So what else? Let's see. Well, there's one thing that I do automatically, and I think it's because of my background is just being in the working world and also being a career counselor. If the call time is at 6 a.m., I'm there at 5:30 a.m. Right. But I've noticed some of the younger talent might not have been prepped because they don't know what they don't know. So I've been trying to help them, like, call time at 6, 5:30 is always good. And I've gotten a lot of the production people saying, oh my gosh, thank you, Nina, for being on time. Like, you're welcome. But that's not what someone told me. I already knew that. And so I was telling other people. I was trying to think of some other things. How about like hair and makeup? So, I always think I need to have like clean hair because they're going to do my hair. Well, a lot of the hairstylists want dirty hair because it's easier to manipulate and style. So that's one thing that someone told me that I didn't know. I started always showing up on set with clean hair. So now I know to ask, do you want clean hair, dirty hair? And what does that mean? Like 3 days dirty, 2 days dirty, 1 day? Okay, a third one. Just my fast pace of this. I've only been retired for a little over a year, and the pace of the trajectory of my encore career has been pretty fast. I'm super grateful, but it's been really, really fast. So, having my support group around me has been wonderful because I didn't know it was going to be this fast. And no one told me, it could be fast. I knew it could be slow, right? Definitely. But I didn't know it could be this fast. Let's see what else. A fourth one. I'm trying to think. That was a really good question. About this whole industry. Oh, you know what? Someone recently told me to make a to-do list in this, and to create a spreadsheet of like auditions and bookings and stuff. So I was just trying to memorize it all, and I should have taken a page from the associate dean chapters, but I didn't, thinking I could remember this. And so they said, just create a spreadsheet, because it's going to help you with understanding, like, when you have an audition, when the fittings are, when the bookings are, especially when you're with multiple agencies, and then you can kind of keep track. So that's one of the things. And then the last one, oh gosh, Wanda, I'm trying to think. I want to give you a really good one. I didn't know. These interviews. The interviews that I'm doing, I don't want to say no one's prepped me, but maybe they should, because I feel like I ramble. There's Led Zeppelin has that wonderful song, Ramble On, right? I feel like I'm Led Zeppelin. I'm just rambling on. So feel free to cut me off or, at any given time. But yeah, so I think maybe how to interview, I think. Yeah.
Well, I think you are doing great. Great. I am loving this interview.
Thank you.
So you're a great person. You're a person of great influence. And if you could inspire a movement that would bring the most amount of good to the most amount of people, what would that be?
Well, so I have a passion for the developmentally disabled population. That can go into many different aspects of populations of folks. So there's an organization that I've been working with and volunteering for since like 1999, 2000. It's called Get Safe. And one of the things that I did with Get Safe was, and this is way back in the day, was to create some safety programs for persons who were developmentally disabled. And that's because I had been working with that population, the special ed population, as they called it, at the school district. And I found that there was a need, that population was very, very kind and very naive, and they are victimized 10 times more so than the quote unquote normal population. So I want to give you an example, then I'll tell you how I'm going to tie this all in. So the executive director, Stuart Haskin of Get Safe, he founded this nonprofit about 40 years ago. And I was on the board of SACA, which is the Sexual Assault Crisis Agency of Long Beach. And I also had worked with the Unified School District, so I was very familiar with the students who were developmentally disabled or special ed, being able to stay at the school district until they were 21. And they would be transported in, everybody knows, the yellow school buses. So many times SACA would get what they were called prank calls from people who were just pranking them about being assaulted and different things. And so my thought was, well, what if it's a person who really can't articulate what is happening to them in a way that is normal. So we did some training for SACA back in the day, and then we also did training for the school districts and for this population of students. And about 3 months later, SACA reported that they received a call from a person who obviously was, special ed or developmentally disabled, that the school bus driver was assaulting them. And so because we did the training with SACA, they didn't hang up the phone and think that it was a crank call. They listened. And this person who called had the tools because we taught them who to call and what to do. And so because of that, the bus driver was tried and he was found guilty. So it's like, that is very powerful to me because we were able to help these populations have a voice and have other populations listen to their voice. Another great thing that Get Safe is doing is working with police officers and talking about how to work with, persons with developmental disabilities when they're out and about. Because, there's a lot of times, some of them, they have sensory issues. Sometimes, touching is a problem with them and they don't mean to do this, but it's just an automatic reaction. It's really sad that we have to teach our police officers this. And what do I mean by that? It's like now police officers, just like teachers, have to be, security guards and mental health experts and drug and alcohol counselors, everything under the sun. And they're not experts in that, but hoping with Get Safe or providing them with some knowledge that they can do their job just a little bit better or recognize something. And then those people, teachers or police officers, can then call the appropriate people to come in to assist. And so that's what I'm doing with Get Safe. And I sit on their board now. I used to do a lot of the training, but now I sit on their board and I just love it. And, again, I've been doing it since 1999. And I think Stuart Haskin, the executive director, this is his life's passion. And he's helped a lot of people. And then also, bridging the gap between the community and the police as well. So we do some trainings with that so that the police understand what the community is going through and the community understands what police are going through. Because right now, that's a very heated topic. I was lucky enough to be selected by then former Deputy District Attorney Jackie Lacey for LA to represent the city of Long Beach. I was on the community justice panel. So what we did was, and she had representatives from the different cities in LA County talk about, the topics that were in the news. And she picked us because we weren't far right, we weren't far left, we were reasonable. Right. And so we really looked at those topics and we weren't influenced by our emotions. By the way, I graduated from the Long Beach Community Police Academy in 1996. And what do I mean by that? If I want to make a change, and this is me personally, I'm going to get involved. I'm not going to be on the sidelines talking about what other people need to do in order to make a change. I'm going to be involved. So I did that in 1996. And then I'm also on the Long Beach Police Foundation board because I want to make a change. I want to do the trainings that help and support our police officers and have them see the things that perhaps they're doing incorrectly and we can help, and then also highlight the wonderful things that they're doing. So sorry, I'm on my soapbox now. It got me on that different topic, but that's very passionate about those things. Again, I need to be involved. I just don't want to be on the sidelines talking about it.
Talk about social impact. My goodness, I'm blown away by everything that you do. Wow. We are very blessed that some very prominent names in business, VC funding, sports, and entertainment read this column. Is there a person in the world or in the US with whom you would love to have a private breakfast or lunch with, and why? And you never know, she might just see this, especially if we tag he or she.
Oh my goodness. There's, well, one person sadly passed away. That would be Mother Teresa. That's my first. Second one would be Audrey Hepburn. I'm gonna have to say Oprah, and let me tell you why. Oprah has a reach. Oprah's done some amazing things in her career. What she went through, and she's, we know this about Oprah, what she has gone through as a child. and how she has triumphed and how she's made a difference in people's lives is just remarkable. It's just absolutely remarkable. I would love to have a conversation with her to figure out how I can do the same. If I am fortunate enough to have any type of spotlight on, Get Safe, the populations of folks that I work with, I would love to learn from her. I'm not the expert, right? So I need to learn from an expert of what I need to do to make that happen. Certainly, again, I'm going to have some mistakes, but I'd rather have as little mistakes as possible in really trying to make a difference. And I think she would be one of the top people, if not the top person that I'd like to speak with about this.
I agree. She is a hero.
Yeah.
She has done remarkable work. So
Yeah.
how can our readers follow your work further online?
So right now, and everybody's got to bear with me, I don't have a website yet. That's coming, I think. But you can, Instagram is the best now. And so it's @_Nina_Cash_. So that's how people can get a hold of me if they would like to message me. But then also I'm going to start putting more of my nonprofit work on there right now, because I had just started because of Sports Illustrated. It's a lot about modeling and acting. And if anybody has any ideas, I'm, like I said, I'm a sponge. If I should create a different account for all of my nonprofit work, I would love to highlight that. I think it's very, very important. For sure. So yeah, but for right now, it's @_Nina_Cash_.
Dr. Nina Cash, thank you so much for sharing these important insights. Your story is invaluable. We wish you continued success and good health always. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.